So surprisingly, Werewolf by Night was such a revelation, and now I just can't wait for more from the horror side of the MCU. What is up everybody, welcome back to my channel Lifestyle Critic. I hope you're having a brilliant day. So in this video we are going to be reviewing Werewolf by Night, which is Marvel Studios' first ever holiday special, this one being a Halloween TV special, and it really did embrace its darker, horrific, gruesome horror side with some truly barbaric kills taking place and some really gruesome sequences, and it served as a really great introduction into the horror side of the MCU. And I thought it was really clever how they made it seem as if it's always been there, a little bit like the Eternals in terms of they were always there in the background but you just never knew of their existence. And the black and white aesthetic I think worked really well in terms of creating an atmosphere that is really similar to the 1940s horror movies that this special is inspired by. And I know Kevin Feige had to be won over with this, and I think it worked really well, as originally they did shoot the whole special in colour, but the director wanted it to actually be realised in black and white. And like I said, I think it just added to the atmosphere so brilliantly, as it really did put a chill down your spine, especially the first act of this movie, where you're in this really medieval gothic space. I thought it was a nice touch how in the final few moments of this special, then colour is introduced and then you kind of feel like, okay, now they're entering into the MCU. But they didn't really explain or demonstrate why colour is now suddenly being injected into it. And on that point, Michael Giacchino really did demonstrate that he is more than capable of going from composer to director, as he did a really good job with this special, as it was structured so brilliantly in terms of really quickly introducing you into this monster hunter space, seeing all of these characters being thrusted into this maze-like sequence and then killing one another, and then the final sequence taking place in terms of Werewolf by Night really realizing his abilities in front of the audience and Elsa Bloodstone, and seeing is he going to be defeated by this ultimate group of monster hunters. That it was really brilliant. And Gael García Bernal was really well casted as Jack Russell and Werewolf by Night, who is cursed to transform into this werewolf character. And similarly, I guess, to the Hulk, he is out of control completely and doesn't really remember when he is transformed into this werewolf. Very similar to the other MCU TV shows, you don't really see the transformation taking place, which was a little bit disappointing. Very similar to She-Hulk, all of the cool VFX stuff kind of happens off screen. They did kind of make it work in terms of seeing Elsa's reaction to Jack Russell transforming into the werewolf, but it would have been cool to see it. But like I said, they did make it work nonetheless. And speaking of Elsa Bloodstone, Donnelly does such a good job bringing this character to life, and it really is her origin storyline, as she is basically the Marvel's version of Buffy the Vampire Slayer, but she isn't that character just yet, but she does become that character towards the end of the special. So I thought it was really cool how when they did go into colour, you do get to see her infamous light brown jacket. And I thought it was a really interesting backstory in terms of being estranged from her family, as she doesn't really agree with everything that they were doing. And now she has come back to now rule the family under her own reign, which I think is going to be really cool. And we of course have her evil stepmother, played fantastically by Harriet Sansom Harris, so perfectly cast as Verusa, the ex-widow to her father, Alicius. And I feel like she was just bringing the horror vibe so fantastically, and is the mastermind in terms of bringing all of these monster hunters together. Speaking of which, the other monster hunters, you don't really get to see much of them. They don't have much of a speaking part in this special, but that being said, I feel like they were cast mainly for their look. And from that perspective, they really did bring all of the non-verbal physical aspects of their characters to life really well, and had so much presence. I absolutely loved Man-Thing though, / Ted. I thought it was really funny how they also made this monster really likable. A little bit similar to the Skrulls in terms of people thinking that they are going to be really evil, but actually they are really good. But as we are going to see in Secret Invasion, there are going to be some evil Skrulls, so I'm sure very similarly we are going to see evil monsters soon. But as far as this special is concerned, all of the monsters really are good guys, and I really love the depiction of Man-Thing. Clearly all of the budget went into realizing this character, as he really was the MVP. He looked so brilliant. All of his sequences are really good. Even though he doesn't really say anything in English, you really can feel for this character. And like I said, visually, he looked really good. Very similar, actually, to Honshu in Moon Knight in terms of being a complete CGI character and being realized so fantastically. Speaking of which, it is such a shame that we didn't get to see Moon Knight or Blade in this horror special. Obviously those characters are going to be so big and so prominent in the future of the MCU, so it would have been nice to kind of see them in here. I know they did want to have Blade in here, but due to scheduling conflicts that wasn't able to be realized, but I know the director also said that that kind of worked in their benefit, as they did want to kind of have this as a bit of a self-contained storyline, which is great. But I feel like the reason that the Marvel Cinematic Universe is so successful is that it's so integrated, so it would have been nice to kind of see a little bit of integration at least. But that being said, all of the kills and evil sequences taking place in this special were just so unbelievable. Literally, Marvel Studios has not entered into this dark territory yet, and it is really, really shocking that it's happening on a Disney Plus show, which I think is a really good sign of things to come, as the MCU is now going to embrace the darker sides. And of course we have Deadpool 3 coming in very soon, so clearly Marvel Studios are happy to enter into the R-rated space, which I think is a really great sign for future things to come. I thought the maze was really, really cool. I would have loved to have seen a little bit more sequences taking place in there, maybe with the other two characters that didn't really get to have that many fight sequences apart from right at the end. Speaking of which, that final battle sequence where you do get to see so much blood and gore, and you do get to see how unstoppable the werewolf character is, was really, really good. Really inspired by very similar other Halloween horror movies, especially from the 1940s era. So I think that sequence in particular was so, so good. And also the way in which Man-Thing just kills people as well was just realized so well. And I loved the Bloodstone. Although it was really, really clever how literally the Bloodstone is the only thing that has some color, which really does give so much prominence and presence to this object. And it reminded me a lot actually of the really similar ruby crystal that you see in the recently released Sandman Netflix series, which just looks so, so cool. And I feel like the Bloodstone in a very similar way just looks absolutely incredible and is clearly able to really weaken and attack monsters. But also, what we didn't get to see that much in this Halloween special is that it also gives the wielder some really, really cool abilities in terms of strength and powers as well. So I hope in the future we'll get to see Elsa kind of being even more powered up because of the Bloodstone. And on that point, I have to say Marvel Studios has done a really good job in terms of really successfully entering into the horror space. Of course, they have done that with Moon Knight, but I feel like this Halloween special fully embraced it. And now I'm just really, really excited to see even more horror aspects and more angles and more elements and more stories taking place within this corner of the MCU, as I feel like it's going to be so, so successful. And so for all of those reasons, I have to give the Werewolf Halloween special a solid 7 out of 10. Now I'd love to hear what you thought of Werewolf by Night, so please let me know in the comment section below. Otherwise, I look forward to seeing you in my next video.